Hey, everybody, welcome to a Wednesday night edition of the Glen Kuiper Show here in the Bay Area as we are less than 2 weeks away from the start of spring training. Can you believe that? It's happening fast this year. It's coming fast. And in 2 weeks from right now, we'll be talking about something that happened spring training. So looking forward to that. We got a fun show tonight. I'm going to go through the National League, all the teams, see what they've done so far this offseason, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about each team. Did they do good? Did they do bad? Did they not do enough? Did they do plenty? Are they a better team? All that kind of stuff. So it'll be fun. And we want your comments, of course, with whatever team we're talking about. But we'll shoot through each team, and it'll be lots of fun. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Kuiper Baseball, Instagram at Glen Kuiper, and my email is glenkuiperbaseball@gmail.com. And of course, we love to have you guys subscribe to the Glen Kuiper Show here on my YouTube channel. We are closing in now on 17,000 subscribers. I keep saying that because I'm still amazed of that number, and it's really thanks to you guys. So all good. We're going to have a fun show tonight. Let's get to the sponsors. As always, the Glen Kuiper Show is brought to you by the good folks from Tilden Properties. By investing in California's multifamily real estate with Tilden Properties, you'll see quarterly dividends and equity buildup in the real estate market. Tilden Properties is Bay Area-based and family-owned and has been building investment wealth for their clients since 2008. Isn't that what you want? They're looking for investors. Go to their website. You can look at their portfolio. It's very, very impressive, and you can see what you could be getting into if you're willing to be an investor with Tilden Properties. 925-209-8558. And we're also brought to you by the Carrig Real Estate Team, who have been helping families buy and sell homes across the Bay Area with a legacy of client-first service dating all the way back to 1978. Whether you're in the market to buy or sell, the Carrig Real Estate Team will guide you home. You can contact Mike Carrig today for a free home or sale purchase consultation. Call 925-548-4132 and go to their website at carrigteam.com. And we're also brought to you by Partners Capital, LLC. This is a wealth management firm providing financial strategies for elite performance and lasting peace of mind. With experience guiding professional athletes and the families right next door, Partners Capital delivers thoughtful planning, steady guidance, and a clear path forward. It's Partners Capital, your partner for a stronger financial future. Give them a call, 1-888-702-7743. And last but certainly not least, the Glen Kuiper Show is brought to you by Area Rug Cleaning Direct. It's a subsidiary of Gamble's Flooring. If your area rug needs professional cleaning or repair, Area Rug Cleaning Direct will pick it up and return your area rug looking brand new within 5 business days. Family owned and proudly serving the Bay Area for over 35 years. Call Bay Area Cleaning Direct, 925-933-9999 for all your area rug needs. All right, let's get to the show, folks. And I've been kind of looking forward to doing the show as the off season rolls through. What I do is whenever I see a team make a transaction, trade, free agent, whoever it may be, I write it down. I keep track of each team's additions, each team's subtractions, and with spring training getting so close, and there still will be moves made. There'll still be players signed as free agents, and there'll be some trades. But anyways, it's getting close, and rosters are starting to take shape for all these teams. So I thought it'd be fun to just go. We'll do the National League, maybe get to the American League later this week or maybe next week. But wanted to concentrate on the National League tonight and go through the teams and just see what they've done and see what you guys think about each team's performance this offseason. Winning the offseason doesn't mean anything, but it is kind of fun to look back and see who teams picked up, see who teams lost, and do you feel like they're a better team going into the 2026 season? So that's kind of what I wanted to do tonight, but I definitely want to get you guys comments or anything you'd like to add to what do you think about some of the teams that we're certainly going to talk about. As we should, we'll start with the National League West. We're going to start with the Giants, but we know what the Giants have done. We know the additions. We talk about them a lot. But there's a couple things that I wanted to hit on, and it has to do with the Giants roster, their position players, okay? Because I don't want to say it's completely set, but it's pretty close, I would think. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Two things that I've been thinking about. First, with Harrison Bader, which I think is a terrific sign. He's just what they need, somebody who catches the ball in center field. well above average defensively. But with that in mind, with Bader in mind, I want to talk about the 4 extra player spots that are on the roster. And I know that doesn't sound sexy. You're probably thinking, wait a minute, we're going to talk about 4 bench players. Just stay with me on this, okay? Because I do think it's important. Harrison Bader is going to be your starting center fielder. I think Lee's going to move to right. Ramos will be in left. I think that's probably the way it's going to be. But let's just remember, Harrison Bader is going to be your starting center fielder. But in 2020, the last 2 years, okay, let's look at the last 2 years for Bader. He started 108 games in 2024, and he started 122 games last year. And he had a very good year last year. But I don't know that we can sit here and say Harrison Bader is going to start 150 games for the Giants in center field. I don't know that that's realistic. It's not a criticism. It's somewhat factual from what we've seen in his career. He has had some injuries. He may be more of a 120 start guy, 120 games started. Maybe it's, I hope it's more. But my point to that is this, with Bader in mind, that makes the 4th outfield spot very important. And I think a lot of people think that'll be Drew Gilbert. We don't know that for sure, but that's certainly a possibility, and that would not be a bad thing. Gilbert's a terrific defensive center fielder. We don't know if he can hit yet. The hit tool is still a question mark. So we'll see with that. But there's 4 extra players, okay? Because you have 13 pitchers. You have your 9 players in the lineup, including your DH. Well, that's 22 right there. So you only have 4 extra players, 4 bench players. You got a backup catcher. Giants got some options there. They got Susak from the A's. We'll see if he is the guy. You got a backup infielder, could be Christian Koss, who I think did a really nice job last year. You got a backup outfielder, who we just said certainly could be Drew Gilbert. So that leaves you with just 1 other extra player, okay? And with us maybe not being completely sure, even if Bader stays healthy, can he go 145 games? That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot for anybody. So the final extra player, okay, again, what the heck are we talking about that for, right? Well, think about this. That extra player, what would you like to see that extra player do? Would you like to see him play the infield and the outfield? Would you like the guy to have some special traits? There's talk about Gerard Encarnacion being maybe the extra player, one of the extra players on the bench. He can play right field. He can play left field. He's actually not a bad outfielder. Hurt all last year. That really, he really missed the year basically. So big, strong power guy, but we don't know. We don't know if he's going to hit consistently at the big league level. Anyways, it got me to thinking, what about Tyler Fitzgerald? Kind of the forgotten guy, right? 2 years ago, super fun to watch. Last year, just could not figure it out. Lost confidence, went into a slump, never got out of it. But he, stay with me on this. Somebody like Fitzgerald could play defense well on the infield. We've seen that. He's a pretty good outfielder, so he can play defense in the outfield as well. So now you got a guy who can play 2 spots. And the ingredient he brings is something that the Giants are looking to add more of: speed and athleticism. And he has both of those. He could steal you a base late in the game. He could pinch run late in the game. So I'm not necessarily advocating for Fitzgerald, but I'm saying I think he should probably be an option for your extra player on the bench. And again, we don't know. The Giants may trade for a second baseman. It pops up every day almost. And if that was the case, then I think Schmidt probably becomes your extra bench player because he can play first, second, third. I think he could play the outfield, quite frankly. I think he's a very good athlete. So again, we're just kicking around some things with this roster. Now, the second thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is interesting, and I want to see what you guys feel about this. It has to do with Bryce Eldridge. Okay. Everything we're reading, and I do it when you start thinking about the Giants lineup, right? It's kind of fun. You think about the lineup, and we all are putting Bryce Eldridge in the Giants lineup. He's going to DH. He's going to play a little bit of first base, but It's going to be great. We got this young stud power hitter, right? And I hope with all my heart that Bryce Eldridge is in the lineup on opening day. I hope he plays the whole year, and I hope he shows promise. I hope that happens. But the reality is, we don't know if Bryce Eldridge is ready. We really don't. He's only 21 years old, 28 big league at-bats last year, at-bats. 253 AAA at-bats. That's not a lot. I think we can all agree on that. He's played 249 minor league games, which is the equivalent to a couple seasons, okay? So I think being a little concerned that maybe he's not quite ready yet is a legitimate concern. Again, I hope it's not an issue at all, and he plays and he shows that he's able to stick at the big league level. But the reality is we don't know that for sure. What if he's not ready? Okay. What if he needs a little more AAA time? What if the Giants are like, you know what? I think he needs a couple hundred more at bats in AAA. That is not out of the question. It's really not. So what do you do then with your DH spot? Okay. Because it's the DH spot. They got to hit. It's the designated hitter. It's not designated player. It's the designated hitter. Okay. So what do? It could be you say, hey, and this is what teams do more now than they did, 15 years ago when most teams had, most American League teams had a DH, maybe an older guy who could still hit. But maybe you use that DH spot to rest guys a little bit, give them a half a day off. Maybe Ramos DHs once a week. And if Lee's, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Give your regular position players, give them a half a day off and you could DH them. That's a possibility. And that's what a lot of teams do now. But I do think the DH Eldridge thing, I think it's something to keep an eye on, because what do you do if he's not ready? Okay. And it's possible. It's possible that he may not be. I hope he is. We're going to find out real soon. So those were just a couple of roster things that I was thinking about, because the Giants roster, you have a pretty good idea now who's going to play where. And you even have a pretty good idea about the extra players, that the things I was kind of throwing out there for the bench players. I mean, really, how many openings are there on this roster from a position player standpoint? I don't know that there's a lot, but guys get banged up and things like that. So I got a bunch of comments, which is great. I just like to see what you guys are thinking about some of the. Let's see. Now, this is an interesting one. Justice K says, if Eldridge ain't ready, go get Luis Arise. Yeah, that's an interesting one. And I know that has popped up a couple times. But the thing with that is, and we won't know when Eldridge is, when is the decision made that, Eldridge is good. He looks good in spring training. Who knows, right? So I think the point there is it's not a terrible idea, but the point is, Eldridge could get into May and really start to struggle. And it may be like, it's probably better. Let's take a little pressure off. Let's send him down. Then there's not going to be people out there that you could sign. I mean, there may be, but, and the thing with the Rise is, and I know he's got 3 batting titles. I get it. And certainly the DH is the spot for him because he's not a good defender. He's not a great base runner. He does not have speed. So he's really very one-dimensional. He's a singles hitter, and he gets on base. None of that's bad, but I'm not sure that I'm not necessarily surprised that he's still out there. My guess, he's probably asking for more than teams are willing to pay him. That would be my guess. He may be asking for 12, 13 million a year. And I don't think he's going to get that. So yeah, this is a tough one because Arise, he doesn't strike out. He gets on base. He's a tough out. I see all that. is he the kind of player that the Giants want? I think that may be part of the issue here, Justin. It's like, okay, they want defense, they want some speed, they want some athleticism. Arise is he's a different player than that. I think is probably the best way to put it. So I don't think that's happening, and I think it's not happening. For the reasons that I'm saying. But he's also still out there, and that probably means he's asking for too much, and he's probably not going to get it. Okay, let's see. Last couple. Bake That Dough says, you also don't want to start the yo-yo treatment with Bryce and kill his confidence if he's not ready. Start him at AAA and make him kick the door down. Not a bad idea. And again, that decision is going to have to be made in spring training. But the problem with big league baseball is guys look great in spring training. And then once the lights go on and, then it can happen. Again, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case with Eldridge. We don't know. We don't know. But what would the plan be if he started the season in AAA, which is just not a it's just not a ridiculous it's not a ridiculous thought that maybe he needs, that the Giants may feel like he just needs a touch more seasoning, as they like to say. But it's something to think about. And I thought it was I think I don't want to say issue. Issue's not the right word, but I think it's something we're going to all watch for in spring training. And the Giants will have to decide, okay, the kid's ready. Let's put him in the lineup, maybe drop him down a little bit, not a lot of pressure, boom. Or, hey, he needs a little more time. We're going to find out. So, all right, let's start in the National League West. We're going to look at what these teams have done, what they've added, what they've subtracted. What do you guys think about them? And I would love your comments. Starting with the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks, a couple of games under 500 last year, ton of runs scored. Pitching was not very good. So they have added, they brought back Merrill Kelly. Remember, they traded Kelly at the trade deadline. Well, they brought him back. So they brought back Merrill Kelly. They got Soroka, another pitcher, and they got Nolan Arenado in a trade. Okay, so that's the additions that the Arizona Diamondbacks have made. And if I miss a transaction here or there, then tell me, let me know, because I'll write it down. But I try to get them all. And they haven't really lost anybody. They lost McCarthy, the speedy outfielder who always seems to kill the Giants, even though he was hitting 200. But and Zach Gallen. Okay, they've lost Zach Gallen, but you also hear it come up quite a bit that maybe they'll bring Zach Gallen back, which got me to thinking, well, okay. So what I did too, I wanted to do with the National League teams is look at where they're at rotation-wise. So Arizona's, they get Kelly back. They have Eduardo Rodriguez, the soft-tossing lefty. They have Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson, a couple of young right-handers who aren't bad. And then remember, they're going to get Corbin Burns back mid-season. Now, is he going to be, the Corbin Burns that we saw, when he was one of the best pitchers in the National League right away? I don't know. But they will get Burns back mid-season. So that's, I may be missing a guy or two, but that's sort of where the starting pitching looks for the Diamondbacks. And the Burns thing's a big deal if they're in it at midseason, and then you get a guy like that. So it'll be interesting to see if they do add Gallen back to that. But that's kind of what the Diamondbacks, again, they've added, Arenado at third. They got Kelly back. And they haven't really lost a lot. So, they're a team that, again, they can score a ton of runs. They have three of the best. Their middle of the lineup is as good as, I love the guys. Marte, Perdomo, and Corbin Carroll. Those three guys, hey, put them up against most anybody, a threesome. So that's what the Diamondbacks have done so far this offseason. I don't know how you guys feel about them. I don't know. Nothing that jumps out at you. But they're still a tough, feisty team. Rockies are the Rockies. What can we say? They had the worst record in the big leagues last year. It's just a tough drill. They picked up Michael Lorenzen, the right-handed starting pitcher, but it's the Rockies. There's not a whole lot to say there. And I'm not trying to bury the Rockies, but it is what it is. They were 43 and 119 last year. That brings us to the Dodgers. And this has been interesting to me. And I did say this. I said this early in the offseason. The Dodgers will make two splashes. I said it. I said they're going to get some type of pitcher, whether it be a starter or a reliever, and they're going to get another position player, and they did because they can. They did. I don't have a problem with it. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not breaking any rules. So they get Diaz to solidify their bullpen, and of course they get Kyle Tucker. Those are the two big signings. That's who they added to their roster. Who did they lose? Kershaw. That's a feel-good thing, but Kershaw certainly the career was probably coming to an end. They lost Michael Conforto. Conforto didn't do a lot for them. Couple of bullpen guys, so this is not some, oh boy, they lost these guys. And if you look at this Dodgers roster, okay, and we all know the names, you could make a pretty strong point that actually I can make a pretty strong point, in my opinion, that this is as good of a baseball roster as I've seen in a long time. I mean, again, it's an opinion, but just think about it. We know the position players, and they added Tucker to that. I mean, we know that, but then, I mean, look at the rotation: Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Ohtani, Sasaki. And Sasaki, they're talking maybe they start him in the minor leagues. I mean, that's the starting rotation. You got a premier closer, and then you got the position players. I mean, it's as good as of a roster as I've seen in a long, long, long time. And that's just the reality of it. They're a force. It's not going to change. And we can talk about the collective bargaining agreement and what needs to be done, but they've made a lot of really good decisions as well. They've spent a ton of money, but if you're going to spend the money, then you need to make the right baseball decisions, and they make the right personnel decisions as well, and they deserve a ton of credit. So that's who they brought in. It's hard to imagine that they're not probably going to be a better team. With now you have a certified closer, and you've added a huge bat. And who have you lost? Who have you lost from that lineup? Nobody. I mean, they brought Rojas back. Kike Hernandez is still out there, but don't be surprised if he ends up back there. So that's sort of what the Dodgers have done. It's hard to say that they haven't taken a step backwards, but two big splashes, and that's where they're at. Haven't lost much, added a lot, and they'll try to improve on a 93-win season that ended with, of course, a thrilling World Series win. So that's where the Dodgers have been this offseason. And then wrap up the National League West with the San Diego Padres. And this has been an interesting team for me because Padres are a very good team. We've seen it. 90 wins last year, right? They've been to the postseason a lot lately. I mean, I got them going. I mean, heck, they've been to the postseason 4 times in the last 6 years. Now, they haven't broken through and got that first World Series title, but this is a very good team. We know the names here too. But what have they done this offseason? And this has been a surprising team to me because they've been very quiet. Okay. Sungmin Song, infielder that they got, they gave him a 3-year, $13 million deal. Not sure where he's going to play. They re-signed Michael King, a good right-hander. So they brought him back, which is a big deal. But they lost the closer Suarez. They lost Arise, Dylan Cease, Ryan O'Hearn, and now it looks like Darvish is going to retire. So they've lost some important people. So have they regressed, or are they still a team that could challenge the Dodgers? Because they only finished 3 games behind the Dodgers last year in the National League West. So that's a tough one. Like I said, Arise is out of that lineup. O'Hearn's out of that lineup. But it's still, you got Machado and Bogarts and Cronenworth and Sheets and Laureano's going to be in the outfield, and Merrill, and Fernando Tatis. I mean, there's good players around. So do they have enough pitching? Okay, so here's their starters: Pivetta, who had a really good year last year, Randy Vasquez, Michael King, and they get Joe Musgrove back. Now that's a big deal, right? Musgrove missed all of last year. He'll be back healthy. They still got the lefty JP Sears. I don't think I'm missing anybody, but those are kind of their starting pitching potential. And is that enough? Is that enough to compete at a high level in the National League? I don't know. That's an interesting question. And I guess I'm a little surprised that the Padres haven't done more, because they're such an active team. When it comes to the trade deadline or the offseason, Preller, the man in charge, he loves to trade, and he's not afraid to trade. And they've done a lot of trading over the years, but a quiet off season for the San Diego Padres. And not sure what that means, but we'll find out. So that's sort of where the National League West is with teams' additions and subtractions. Let's get some comments to see what you guys think about that. Okay. Jerry says we have a lot of talent playing smart baseball, minimum of mistakes, lay out bad pitches, and let's go, baby. Yeah, well, if you can do all that, you probably have a chance to have a pretty good year if you're the San Francisco Giants. Let's see. Justice, we need Glenn in one of the booths. If not, then pre and post game. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. That would be a wonderful thing, wouldn't it? Let's see. All right. Jerry says, we have the best coaching staff in baseball. We're going to find out real soon, Jerry. We're going to find out real soon. It's all new. Variations in age, but it's going to have to come together quickly, and they're already coming together, trust me. But there's so many fun things to watch with the Giants starting in spring training. Of course, the manager, but then you have this coaching staff with all these different names, new names. We all got to get to know them, but it's exciting and it's fun, and looking forward to seeing Ron Washington in a Giants uniform. I mean, how great is that, right? So anyways, okay, let's shift gears, and we are now going to go to the National League Central, okay? This is always an interesting division, but the team that sort of jumps out to me is, just from what's happened so far, is the Cubs. And I think it's hard to not look at the Cubs and go, yeah, they got a shot this year. So let's start with Chicago. What have they added? What have they lost this offseason from a team that won 92 games last year? They were the number one wild card team. Remember, they beat the Padres in that wild card series, but then they lost to the Brewers in the division series. But so they had, listen, the Cubs had a terrific offseason. I mean, they did. They get Bregman, who's, I love that guy. I mean, I think he's going to make a world of difference in Chicago. You get Bregman, you trade for Cabrera, the good young right-handed pitcher who's, I believe, got 3 more years of team control, so he's going to be with the Cubs for a while. They lost some bullpen arms, but they filled the bullpen as well. They got Phil Maton, a right-hander, Milner, a left-hander, Hunter Harvey. But of course, the big ones were Bregman and Cabrera. So you get a star third baseman, and you get a young, really good starting pitcher. So who did they lose? Well, of course, they lost Tucker. Okay, I mean, that's a big deal. Tucker, remember, he got off to the roaring start that slowed down. I think Tucker was a little bit banged up. But so they lose Tucker, and they lose a whole bunch of their bullpen. They kind of redid their bullpen a little bit. So we'll see if that works. But it's really, you add Bregman, and from a big name standpoint, the Cubs add Bregman, add Cabrera, and lose Tucker. So again, pretty good offseason for them. on a team that already won 92 games. And the thing that I really like about Chicago is they have starting pitching depth, and not a lot of teams have that. Now, teams may have guys in the minor leagues that they think can help them when needed. The Cubs have a surplus of major league starters. Okay, listen to this. Imanaga, the lefty, went back there. He's pretty good. Cade Horton. Remember, he was a front runner to win the National League Rookie of the Year. Really good young right-handed pitcher. Had a weird rib injury, fractured his rib, but he's back. He's healthy. Cade Horton, that's a big, big deal. You got Cabrera, the guy they just traded for. You got Justin Steele, who's going to be back. Good left-hander. He was injured last year, but he's back. You got Matthew Boyd. I believe Matthew Boyd was an all-star last year. Another really good lefty. So that right there, I mean, that's 5. Jamison Tyon. Can't forget about him. And Colin Ray. Colin Ray made over 25 starts for the Cubs last year. So my point is that right there is 7 guys that are all on their major league roster that are all starters. So it's going to be interesting to see how they move things around. But that's a really, really good group of starting pitchers. Boy, I mean, you put Horton and Cabrera and Steele and Boyd and Imanaga. That's pretty good. And that's why the Cubs sort of jumped out at me because of what they did and what they have with this starting pitching. Cincinnati Reds, they were the 3rd wild card team in the National League last year. 83 wins, so they won 2 more games than the Giants. They got that last spot. They got knocked out quickly by the Dodgers. But the Reds could be an up-and-coming team. But they didn't do a lot this offseason. I don't know if that's a concern. I don't know if they didn't want to spend the money. That I'm not sure. But there wasn't anything. They got a couple of relievers. They got J.J. Bleday, who was with the A's, but he had a bad year. So they didn't really do a lot. And, it was an okay offense, but they're built around pitching, okay? And they have this good young pitching. But who did they lose? Did they lose anybody that that's going to cost them games? No, not really. Gavin Lux got traded. Zach Littell, who they got in a trade, he hasn't signed with anybody yet. Nick Martinez, and they lost 3 or 4 relievers, but they have the starting pitching though that can keep them in games and get them to the postseason. And that's one of the reasons they got there this past year. So this is what the Reds have. So I told you who they really didn't gain anybody of magnitude. Okay, guess what I'm saying. And they didn't really lose anybody of magnitude. They lost a bunch of relievers, but they obviously filled those holes. So who are their pitchers? Well, Hunter Green's terrific, right? Andrew Abbott was an all-star. Nick Lodolo is a very good young left-hander. So that top 3 right there is pretty damn good. They can carry you. Those 3 can carry you. They have Brady Singer, the veteran right-hander. Remember, he was with Kansas City, with Cincinnati last year, got traded. They have a young kid, Chase Burns, very hard thrower. So they're going to build around pitching, and they're going to hope that will carry them again because it's going to have to. They have good young position players. Kind of middle of the pack offensively. They were 8th in the National League in runs scored last year. So we'll see about the Reds. See if they can build on that. But I think what they're looking for is internal improvement, probably more so than maybe adding a big name hitter or another pitcher or something like that. So that's where the Reds are. Didn't do a huge amount of roster addition, but maybe they feel like, they have enough and this young group is going to get better, but it'll revolve around pitching with the Cincinnati Reds. Next up is the Milwaukee Brewers. What can you say about their season? They won 97 games last year. They have won the National League Central 3 straight times. They kind of quietly do it. And then you realize, wait, they've won it 3 straight times, but they had the best record in the major leagues. Think about that. Best record in the major leagues. Better than the Dodgers, better than the Phillies. 97 wins last year. Interesting, though. They're an interesting club to me because they play the game the right way. They're fun. They catch the ball. They do They do as many things right as a club as any team in baseball. That's one of the reasons why they won 97 games last year. Now, with that said, they traded Freddie Peralta. Okay, that's a big deal. He was your ace. He was your number one guy. They got a good young pitcher back, good young infielder who I don't know if he'll be ready for the big leagues yet, but Jet Williams is his name. But anyways, but ultimately it was a fairly quiet offseason as far as any major additions to the Brewers. And you look at who they lost. Yeah, they lost the Peralta's a big deal. They lost some pitchers. Rhys Hoskins is gone. Yeah, but they have a lot of talent. I mean, they're a really, really good offensive team. But how much will the loss of Freddie Peralta hurt them? So we're looking at rotations to see, do they have enough? Can the Brewers be a really good team again next year? Well, I would say there may be a little bit of a concern surrounding their starting pitching. They have Brandon Woodruff. He's back. He took the qualifying offer, and he's a very good pitcher. He should be healthy and ready to go. Quinn Priester's a young guy who made a bunch of starts for them. Chad Patrick, same thing. So they have some young guys. They have the Miz, of course, and that's a big deal. Jacob Mizorowski, will he start? Is he coming out of the bull? I mean, I think he's going to be a starter. I think that's where you have to put him. But they got the kid from the Mets in the Peralta deal, Brandon Sprout. He has a chance to be very good, but is he ready to pitch in the big leagues and make 25 to 30 starts? They're going to have to find that out. So there could be some concern, but the Brewers always seem to figure out a way to do this. But last year, they had 17 different guys start a game from a pitching standpoint. That's a lot. That's a lot. So they're an interesting team because they're really good offensively and they do all these things well. Do they have enough pitching with the loss of Peralta and some of these young guys that are going to have to step up? So they're a fun team to watch, but they're also an intriguing team to watch this year. Can they continue to do what they did last year without making any real significant? And I don't want to say the two kids they got from the Mets, Peralta, are not significant, because they are. They absolutely are. But when I say significant, I mean, how much will they help this year, the 2026 season for the Brewers? That's what they're going to have to find out. So it'd be interesting to see too how they are with that starting rotation. Cardinals, full rebuild here. They got some. Listen, when you trade Arenado and Contreras and Sonny Gray, that alone sort of tells you where they're at. Okay, I get the Arenado trade. But Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras, good pitcher, good hitter. So I think it's going to be a long year for the Cardinals. They got a bunch of good young pitchers in the Sonny Gray deal and also in the Contreras deal. So they kind of stocked up. They signed Dustin May. Remember Dustin May with the red hair from the Dodgers, hoping he can do something in the rotation if he's healthy. But Liberatori's a good young pitcher. I think it's going to be a tough sled for the St. Louis Cardinals. I just don't think, and I think they understand that. They're clearly going in a rebuild type situation, and you just don't see the Cardinals do that very often. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen them do that. But that's where it's going to be with the Cardinals. So more of subtraction than addition from the Cardinals. And then lastly, in the NL Central, the Pirates, Pirates 71 and 91 last year, but they did make a little bit of an effort this offseason. They signed Ryan O'Hearn. We saw O'Hearn with the Padres when he got traded over there. Pretty good left-handed hitter. They got Brandon Lowe, a trade from the Rays. I saw him a lot in the American League. He can hit. He can absolutely hit. So they put together a couple good veteran hitters in that lineup, and they need it because they really struggle scoring runs. They scored the fewest runs in all of Major League Baseball last year. So they're doing anything they can to just add a little bit to that offense. They signed Soto, the left-handed reliever. So they lost a couple of starters though. Burrows got traded, Oviedo got traded, so they'll try to make up for that. But they have what could be an exciting rotation. Of course, you got Skeens. We all know his deal. But Mitch Keller's a pretty good starter. He's on a long-term contract. They have Bubba Chandler, who's one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. He has been for a while. He's ready to go at the big league level. Fun to watch. And they're expecting to get Jared Jones back. Remember Jared Jones? Little right-handed pitcher, throws really hard. But he's supposed to get elbow issues, missed time last year, but he's supposed to be back early part of the season. So now you got a pretty good pitching rotation of 4 guys. You need more than that. But you got a couple of young guys to go with Skeens. So the Pirates, I think, will be better. I think they'll be an interesting team to watch. And they made some effort this year. They spent a little money, which is a criticism of the Pirates, that they don't like to spend a lot of money. But they did do that this year. How much difference will it make? Who knows? But to me, that National League Central, you never count out the Brewers cut because of what we've seen them do in the past. But boy, just the off season, I think it's hard to not look at the Cubs and what they did last year, and then what they've added this off season. And I think it's hard not to say that the Cubs are the cream of the crop in that division this year. But you never know, because the Brewers have this way of surprising people. So that's the additions and subtractions in the National League Central. I'm going to check back with my comments, see what let's see. Rick Brown says, rumors getting hot on Framber to the Giants. Really? All right. Well, then give us something to watch. Those crazy rumors, you never know whether they're true or not, but you never know. You never know, folks. Hey, that would be kind of fun, though, wouldn't it? Let's see. Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of Framber stuff. So Philip Darling says, "Sup, Glenn? Did I say it right?" See, I'm not cool. I'm just not hip and cool. But thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks for checking in. I love it. I love meeting the new people. Hit the like and subscribe, everyone. Thank you, Bake That Dough. He is a good man. In fact, I can't wait to see Bake That Dough at the ballpark, because you know what I need. I need some cookies. It's the off season and trying to lose weight, but that's not any fun. So anyways, all right. So let's finish with the National League East. This is such an interesting division. It's a fun division. I mean, I like the division, right? Because you got some powerhouses, and it's good. It's good. It's a fun division to watch. So let's start with the Phillies. Okay. Phillies are interesting this year. Listen, we all know how good the Phillies are, right? They have a ton of talent. 96 wins last year, and they, of course, won the National League East. Good lineup. We know what they're all about. So what did they do this offseason? They went out and they got Adolis Garcia, which I thought was interesting. Remember Garcia with the Rangers had a couple really good years, slumped last year, but got a 1-year, $10 million deal to go to Philly. Remember Bader was in Philadelphia for half the year last year and was really good in Philly. In fact, the Philly people were kind of disappointed that Bader got away, but he was a free agent. But they go get Garcia, very talented guy. He's got a good arm. He's good defensively. Strikes out a lot, but just had a really bad year. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. He could turn it around in Philadelphia. That would not surprise me. They got a reliever in Brad Keller, very good reliever there on a 2-year deal. They got a couple other relievers in trades, but the big thing, they re-signed Schwarber and they re-signed JT Realmuto. So that's who they brought in. Okay, a couple of relievers, Garcia and Keller. Did they lose anything? Did they lose anything major? Yes, Ranger Suarez. That's huge. He was a big part of their starting rotation. They lose Bader. Couple of relievers, but the big one there, of course, is Ranger Suarez. So where does that put the Phillies starting rotation? Okay. So you have Christopher Sanchez, who's terrific, Cy Young candidate. Luzardo, great. So you have two really good left-handers at the top. Nola did not have a good year last year. He needs to bounce back. Taijuan Walker, they got a really good young prospect in Andrew Painter. But the big one is Zach Wheeler. Okay, remember Zach Wheeler injured. They think that Zach Wheeler could be back May or June. That's sort of what I've heard. I think they'd be thrilled if it was May. It may be more June, late June. But anyways, if you have Zach Wheeler back with Sanchez and Luzardo, that's as good of a 1-2-3 as there maybe in baseball, except for maybe the Dodgers. But the question is, when will Wheeler get back, and what will he be like when he gets back? So that would be the question. The Phillies will score runs. They got too many great players in the lineup. I know they were, from what I've read, they were not happy. They thought they had Bo Bichette signed, sealed, and delivered, and that was not the case. He went to the Mets. But anyway, still a very good team, and a team that won 96 games last year. Is their starting pitching enough? That's sort of the theme of what we keep talking about here, with all these different teams. But that's where the Phillies are at. The lineup is great. Is there enough there with the rotation? And can Wheeler come back and be Zach Wheeler? There's no reason why he can't. But it's going to be something to keep an eye on. What about the Atlanta Braves? See, the Braves are just a puzzle to me. I mean, they have so much talent, but they were 76 and 86 last year, which is just it's a complete surprise to me. So what have the Braves done? They brought back Iglesias, their closer, which is a pretty good move. They signed Mike Yastrzemski to play in the outfield, a couple years there, and they got Suarez, the Padres closer, on a 3-year, $45 million deal. So that's what the Braves added. So pretty good additions. You keep Iglesias and you add Suarez, so your bullpen's in pretty good shape. Their position players are very good. They got Riley and Swanson and Albies and Olsen, and they got two really good catchers, and they got they got Harris in the outfield, and they have plenty of good players. Acuna's, if he can stay healthy, he's an MVP. So they have enough out there. The question there goes now back to pitching. Do they have enough pitching? Well, it's nice when you can start with Chris Sale. Okay, Sale's an ace, number one guy. Okay, Spencer Strider, he should be healthy. He's really good. And then you got Elder, you got Grant Holmes, you got a couple guys, back end starters, back into the rotation starters. Then you have some young, talented pitchers, but injuries are a concern. The Schwellenbach kid, Spencer Schwellenbach, who's terrific, but he's got his elbow's barking. Something's not right there. Is he going to be healthy by the start of the season? We don't know. So Schwellenbach's that's a big deal for the Braves. I mean, they need him big time. And they lost the Smith-Shawver kid, another young pitcher, very, very talented. But he had Tommy John. He may be back later in the year. They got a kid by the name of Holston Waldrep, another young pitcher. So they have young pitchers, but they got to get them healthy. If you can put those young guys with Sale and with Strider, and if Schwellenbach can get healthy. So there's some ifs there. That's the concern, with the Atlanta Braves. It's such a talented team, and it looks like their bullpen will be fine. But can they get their starters healthy, or somewhat healthy, some of them healthy, where they can compete with the Phillies and the Mets? That would be the question surrounding the Braves. But we certainly wish Mike Yastrzemski luck in Atlanta. He's a good guy and a good player, so we hope that it works out well for him there. The Marlins, the Marlins, talented. They did trade Cabrera. They also traded Ryan Weathers, left-hander starter, to the Yankees. So they traded two young starters, which is you don't see teams do very often, but the Marlins did that. They signed Pete Fairbanks to be their closer. In the Cabrera trade to the Cubs, they did get a terrific prospect. Owen Cassie, I believe is how they pronounce his last name. He was the Cubs' probably their best prospect. star potential there. So they did get him. It'll be interesting to see if he's in the big leagues. I'd like to see him because I've read a lot about him. Anyways, it's the Marlins. We just don't know what, they have Sandy Alcantara. He's always in the trade rumors, but he's still on that team. Yuri Perez is a very good young starter. Max Meyer's a good young starter, but I don't know that there's enough there again to compete. This is a team that last year was 79 and 83, so they were closing in on the 500 mark. They're quiet. They're a quiet team. You don't see a lot. You don't read about them much. It's just the way it is with the Marlins. But they do have some good young talent, and that includes offensive players as well. And you'll see Alcantara is going to be on the trading block probably all year. But that's the Marlins. Again, outside of the Cabrera trade, which was a big trade, they got some young players back. But are they ready to compete with the big boys? I think is probably a fair question. And I don't know that I see that. Nationals, same way. They traded Mackenzie Gore. They got 5 players back from the Rangers. But there's just not. There's talent there, but listen, when you're 66 and 96, it's hard to pick up 10 games in your standings from where you were last year if you don't make a lot of moves. And trading Mackenzie Gore in the long run, it may be a good deal, but you're losing probably your best starting pitcher. They do have some good young starters. Cade Cavalli's a very high prospect who should be in the rotation this year. Josiah Gray, remember Josiah Gray, who's got from the Dodgers, very talented young man. He missed all of last year with Tommy John surgery. He should be back. So at least there's a couple building blocks. But are they going to keep Abrams? Woods is a star. It's just there's a long road ahead for the Nationals. And it was outside of the Gore trade, fairly. They did get Harry Ford from Seattle, a pretty highly touted catching prospect who should be in the big leagues. I know the Mariners liked him a lot, but there's just it's just not the division you want to be in if you're rebuilding. Not with the Phillies, Mets, and even the Braves. So let's finish with the Mets because they're one of my interesting teams. They did a lot. They probably did more than any other team when you talk about who did they bring in. Marcus Semien, Devin Williams, Jorge Polanco, Luke Weaver, Bo Bichette, Luis Robert, Freddie Peralta, reliever Luis Garcia. That's a lot, right? But they lost a lot. If you think Nimmo's gone and Diaz is gone and Alonso's gone and there's a bunch of relievers that are gone, and I'm reading the list because there's too many to remember. So it has been a huge overhaul for the Mets. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't like the vibe last year. It is a team. They were 83 and 79 last year, but they missed the postseason. We all know about the high payroll. But they're going to be a good team. I mean, you have Soto, Lindor, and Bichette in the middle of your lineup. That will carry you a long ways. Do they have enough pitching? See, this is where it's interesting because they, like the Cubs, have been able to gather quite a bit of starting pitcher depth, big league depth, and that's a big deal. So Peterson, the left-hander, he's good. Clay Holmes, we saw Clay Holmes. He pitched against the Giants last year. Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, Freddie Peralta, who's going to jump right to the top of their rotation, okay? But then you have some young guys, and we saw, remember they had the 3 young guys. They traded one of them to the Brewers for Freddie Peralta, but Nolan McLean, who a lot of people think is going to be a star, Jonah Tong, another. So they have 2 young, very highly thought of prospects at the AAA level. They both pitched in the big leagues last year. They're ready to contribute. And they also got a reliever who could start as well by the name of Tobias Myers from Milwaukee. He could be valuable. So there's a lot of depth there in the starting rotation for the New York Mets. So that's going to be a fun team to watch because of all the changes they made. Marcus Semien in New York. Bo Bichette in New York, Jorge Polanco in New York. Will they be a better team? Who knows? But they certainly made a lot of changes to just, I don't know. They just must have been a weird vibe last year with that group, and they're trying to change it. And we'll see, and we'll see if they have enough starting pitching. But so that's my look at literally the additions and subtractions for all the teams in the National League. And I think that the two teams that jumped out, as far as aggressiveness, I would probably have to say that it's the Mets and it's the Cubs. That to me is the ones who we'll see if it works. We don't know. But the Cubs made a couple of huge moves, and the Mets made a whole bunch of moves. We just don't know if it's going to make them a better team. They hope that it will. So that's sort of the rundown of the National League, and there's still time. I mean, the season doesn't start for a while yet. Spring training's close, but and there will be other moves. Hey, don't be surprised if the Giants make a move. And I keep saying that. It could be. Maybe they'll surprise everybody and get a pitcher. I don't know. Maybe they still are going to try to get a second baseman. They've worked hard on that. Who knows? We're going to find out. But there will be other moves that will be made by all these teams to try to get better in the next, 6 weeks before the season starts, or 7 weeks, whatever it is. So anyways, I want to check comments for the last time to see if anybody has any thoughts. Let's see. Well, this is nice. Jerry says, good show. Oh, I was kind of looking forward to doing this because I think I thought it'd be kind of fun just to go over all this stuff. Donald says, Kapler will find a way to screw up the Marlins. Here's Gabe Kapler in the front office of the Marlins. Oh, you guys are great. Donald says, Mets will not make any progress. In fact, they will take some steps back. Interesting. Oh, okay. It's possible. Again, they must have felt like they needed to make a move. And when they did not bring back Pete Alonso, that to me told me that they were thinking we're going to make some changes. And they did. They absolutely did. So they'll be a fun team to watch this year. Very, very intriguing team to watch if they are indeed better. Bake That Dough says, will you be at spring training, Glenn? Bake That Dough. Yes, I will. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm finishing up my plans now. Should be the first couple weeks of March. And I love it. I can't wait for spring training. It's so great. I've been going for 35 years and it's still super fun. And so I'll be down there the first 2 weeks of March. Scott says, Bader's a great defensive addition to the Giants. Not so great defensive outfield. His bat will be okay at the bottom half of the order. Scott, I would say you are right on target. He's going to help in center field. I think he's going to make Lee a better player in right field. Let me rephrase that. I think Lee will be a better player in right field than he was in center field. He's going to make the whole outfield better. Is he going to hit a ton? Listen, he's not an offensive first player. He's a defensive first player, but he's got some speed. He's a scrapper. He plays really hard. He plays with an edge, which I love, and he's going to make that whole outfield better. And you're right. Hit him seventh, eighth, ninth, whatever. Doesn't matter. Let him just play. Just go out and play, man. He's a ball player, and that's what I'm excited about seeing from Harrison Bader. And you know what? It sounds like what he's saying. That he's excited, which I think is great. Isn't that what you want? Donald says, let me add to my Mets take. You can't lose your number 4 hitter and your closer and expect to get better. It's a fair opinion. They lost Alonso. They did add Bichette, a little bit of a different player, but a pretty good player. They added Luke Weaver and Devin Williams to take the place of Diaz. That remains to be seen whether you'd rather have those two guys or Diaz. But again, let's all keep a close eye on the Mets this year just for fun. So anyways, you guys have had great comments tonight. I certainly appreciate that. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Something a little different tonight. And it's possible we'll take a run through the American League maybe next week. We'll see. But it's fun to see exactly how everybody's doing, how teams are doing. And, we're just kicking it around to see if we think teams will be better than they were last year. But really, in the big picture, we do not know. It all comes down to getting these games going. But we had spring training first. So hope you enjoyed tonight's show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. The ratings, as we like to say, have been great. You guys have been loyal. And I really, really appreciate that. And I think you guys know that. So we'll see you. I'm not sure when the next show is going to be, but we're certainly, it could be Friday, but definitely next Monday we'll be back. We got some guests lined up. And I do want to throw this out there because you guys know Marty Lurie, who's one of my good friends. He's on our show a lot. He's been a great friend to me. And I know you saw where he had a movie made about him, right? The Baseball Mensch, the Marty Lurie story. I'm in it a little bit. It's kind of a documentary, but it's a really cool movie, really cool story on Marty. But it has been picked up by Amazon Prime. So you will be able to see the movie on Amazon Prime. It's called The Baseball Mensch, the Marty Lurie story. So if you're bored one night and you want a good baseball documentary / movie to watch, go to Amazon Prime, The Baseball Mensch, Marty Lurie. And we'll have Marty on next week. So I wanted to make sure I got that out there because it's super cool and well-deserved for a guy who loves the game of baseball. All right, Glen Kuiper Show has been brought to you by Tilden Properties. You'll be seeing quarterly dividends and equity buildup in the real estate market. If you invest with the good people at Tilden Properties, they've been building investment wealth for their clients for many, many years, going all the way back to 2008. Call them, 925-209-8558. Glen Kuiper Show is also brought to you by the Carrick Real Estate Team. And whether you're in the market to buy a new home or sell your existing home, the Carrick Real Estate Team will guide you home. They've been doing that since 1978. Contact Mike Carrick today for a free home sale or purchase consultation. Mike is a good man. Call 925-548-4132. And we're also brought to you by Partners Capital LLC, with experience guiding professional athletes as well as the folks next door. Partners Capital delivers thoughtful planning, steady guidance, and a clear path forward. Partners Capital, your partner for a stronger financial future. Give them a call at 1-888-702-7743. That's it for tonight's show, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. It was fun. As always, I love talking to you guys. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you for being a subscriber. And thanks for watching the Glen Kuiper Show. We'll see you down the road, everybody.